Welcome back to the Casting Call cEDH podcast. I'm Blake.
And I'm Chase, and today we're going to be ranking the partners that we see in cEDH based on how impactful they would be if they got banned. Yeah, so when we were coming up with an idea for this week, we were kind of talking about partners, and as we got to talking about it, I was thinking, I think this ban list stuff is still fresh on everyone's mind, and I kind of went back to that, like one of our first episodes whenever I asked that question of like, what would be the most impactful if like Tymna got banned or Rograkh got banned. So I was thinking about that as we were kind of sitting down and recording today for today. And so what we are going to be doing is we are going to be looking at pretty much the most common 15 partners that we see within cEDH. And we're going to rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being if this partner got banned today, it would just completely shift the format. 1 being, it would have no impact whatsoever.
I think that's pretty fair. I think that's actually a really good explanation too. It's better than I would have done.
Well, I just kind of made it up. I just went with it. So.
I just want y'all to know we don't have great. We don't plan very well when we sit down to do these. It's just off the cuff. But it's more fun that way.
I think they know. Those of you that watch, you probably know. It's all good.
The only thing that's ever been planned on this channel is to start the channel. That was it. I think that might have been it.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into this. So I got 15 commanders here. Like I said, the ones that we most commonly see in cEDH. I'm not going to go in any particular order. So let's start with Tana the Bloodsower. So for those of you that might not be aware of what Tana the Bloodsower does, it is a 4-drop in Gruul colors, so a red and green. It's a legendary creature elf druid. It's a 2/2. It has trample, and whenever Tana the Bloodsower deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 Saproling creature tokens, and it has partner. That's why we're doing this. All right, thoughts on Tana?
I love this card, like personally, but it's just because I've struggled to make it work for so long. Like I've played it in casual settings, I've played it in cEDH settings, and it's just a tough card to make work. But I do love it because like it's gonna sound so funny, but like I really got into the partner mechanic, and she was like one of the very first partners that I saw, and I just really liked that. I don't know, like that horde aspect to it. And so I was really in love with the partner mechanic whenever I first got into it, but I was playing at that casual level, and so I was just so drawn to her. And it's so sad, man. She's got like good colors and a cool mechanic, but I just don't think that that's what we want to be doing in a cEDH setting.
Right. No, and I agree with you. Like, I definitely think that she's got an interesting design. And like, even when you were saying you first got in the format and you like the mechanics of it, it has good colors. Me, whenever I would be playing in like standard or anything like that, I tend to gravitate towards like Naya colors. So like she aligns within that. And then I think you made a comment a couple weeks ago. You feel like I've been playing a bunch of Timur stuff because of flubs. So I mean, I also like Timur colors as well. But as far as the purpose of ranking this and looking at the impact, if this card were to get banned today, I don't see it being something that just warps the format entirely. The most common deck that we see this in is with Tymna and Tana, Blood Pod, and even though that deck is kind of proven to do well at times and can kind of come out of nowhere if the table's not prepared for it, I think there's a bunch of different variations of the deck, whether you're playing stacks or just going straight into the pod stuff, and you're mostly playing Tana for the colors here. And even with that said, I think that we've probably seen more people playing Rocco at times than we have seen Blood Pod. So as far as one of the partner commanders that I have on this list today for out of these 15, Yeah, I think she's just there for the colors, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to have that much of an impact on our format in particular.
So what do you give her out of 10 then?
I'm going to give her a 2.5.
That's
2.5.
That is very interesting because I gave her a 3.
You gave her a 3?
Yeah.
All right. We're averaged out to 2.75.
There you go. So Tana is a 2.75 as of right now.
Easy math. At least we started with that one on easy math. So, at least we kind of agree on that one. So let's kind of jump ahead. Let's go into our next one. I think the next one that I'm going to pick is Malcolm Kenai Navigator.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have a whole lot to say on Malcolm other than like, I feel like the last couple times on the channel, Malcolm and particularly Malcolm Vial Smasher has popped up, whether it's been a ranking we've done before or we're looking at standings like throughout the week and we're keeping an eye on tournaments. Like that tends to be a Grixis deck that does pretty well, that it shocks me. And with Malcolm being like one of the key combo pieces to it, I think with that in mind, you can't necessarily say that like Malcolm is just there for the colors.
Yeah.
You know, as far as other decks, like obviously the Grixis Malcolm Vial Smasher I just mentioned is the main one that comes to mind. But like, I think you've talked about like Malcolm Tymna at times and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, Malcolm Tymna seems like a cool Esper list, I think. But most of the time, like the first time that I ever got introduced to Malcolm, it wasn't even Malcolm Vial. It was actually Malcolm Tana, which is funny because we just talked about Tana. But yeah, same thing. Like you just ran like all of the best creature tutors in green. And then you ran like just a ton of like just good effects like in those colors. But then like, you know, and like the blue, all your value stuff. And then you were just trying to get to the Glinthorn Buccaneer combo very early because you didn't want people's life totals to be like really messed up. Like it was just a very turbo heavy list because you like if one person gets really far behind another person and then like the combo doesn't work as well. So it was just a very turbo heavy list that wanted to like make it work. And actually one of my buddies, like how, you know, at Hobbytown for us, like we have the budget tournaments. Yeah. He was actually going to throw that Malcolm Tana list together for the budget tournaments too, which was really, really funny. So like that was the first time that I ever actually got introduced to like a true Malcolm list. But yeah, no, I definitely think that Malcolm being gone would shake up the format, as in like we probably wouldn't see any pirate cards like ever again.
Probably.
But yeah, but I mean as of right now, it is weird because before Jeweled Lotus and some of the other stuff got banned, like I felt like Malcolm was much more prevalent. Same thing. Like there was there were a lot of Malcolm lists that were like top 4 in tournaments and things like that. So I definitely think that him being gone has shaken up the tournament and opened up some spots for other stuff. But yeah, so that's basically what I have to say.
Yeah, and I like that take on it. I like that you brought up that maybe before the bans last year, it was definitely a much more prominent commander. Obviously, the Grixis list is still putting up like really good results, but that might be the only list that it's really slotting into at the moment in our current meta.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not a partner commander that's just there for the colors, and it's a combo piece. So I mean, I think as far as where I would see this, you know, if it were to get banned today, just like we said with Tana, I don't see this one like completely shaking up the format, but I see it being more impactful than what Tana has. So I think I'm going to give this one a 3.75.
You're giving it a 3.75?
Yeah.
I gave this a 5.
You gave it a 5? All right.
What does that math come out to?
I think a 4.25.
That's what you're thinking?
I'm thinking.
You're probably right. 4.375.
Ah!
I mean, closer.
I was, yeah, that, I knew somewhere. We're just making a ballpark estimation there. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that one.
It's been a while since I've been in school.
All right. So the next one, and again, I'm just going through these at random on here, and at the end we'll total them up. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. We're going to total them up, and based off the averaged out numbers, that's going to be our rankings for today.
Yes.
So with that in mind, let's go to another monocolored one. Let's go to Fransisco Fowl Maurader.
Oh, okay.
See if I can find him real quick. All right. So we have a 2-drop for 1 colorless and a black 0/1 bird pirate with flying, and it can't block. And whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to a player, Fransisco explores. So this is one of the, honestly, it's one of the most recent partners we've gotten, if you think about it, compared to all the printings, because we just got this one last year, right?
Yeah. Was it Lost Caverns?
Yeah, with Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And I think there was a couple others, but just from where they've been printing the partners so scarcely and they've been hesitant about it, this is one of our newer ones that we have. And before we kind of sat down and we're going over like what we're going to put on this list, I know we kind of had a little bit of a debate between this one and like Tevish.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. Just as like having a mono black partner commander on here, and Tevish still has its place, but it's not on our list for today. But I know in looking at these, part of the reason I selected this one for today is because there is the Fransisco Thrasios decks, where it's playing like the Walking Ballista combos. This partner almost plays like how Omnixus plays, with the combo of like Walking Ballista and Agatha Soul Cauldron, and just being able to like infinitely shoot the table and things like that. So it's definitely a very interesting way of approaching like a Sultai deck if you really want to play partner pairs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know I'm kind of getting more into discussion on like the actual like pairings in the decks, but kind of looking at this card as a whole and how impactful it would be, I think we're playing better black commanders than what either Fransisco or Tevish have to offer.
Yeah.
So,
I just think that Fransisco is like, well, first of all, like I'm going to preface this is not related to Fransisco's power at all. Fransisco doesn't have a foil etched printing. And I don't know if y'all don't know this about me, or at least I don't think so.
I think, no, you said it once.
Have I said it on the channel before?
Yeah.
Okay. I collect all of the partners specifically for their foil etched printings. Like I love foil etched cards. I don't know why, but I love foil etched cards. So I own all of the partners and all of the partner with like cards, and any of them that have foil etches, I have the foil etch of. Fransisco does not have a foil etch, so it just hurts my soul. So for that reason, I don't really like him. But I do think that I definitely think that the combos and stuff that he has are pretty cool, and it's just one of them things though where like I feel like it's a line that like it's a combo that works, and if people are like partial to it, it's kind of like how I'm partial to Zer. Like I really like that commander, so I can understand being like partial to the commander itself. The combo works. It's cEDH viable. It does. I mean, people use it and they win. Like I think it's totally fine. But there's a lot of setup. There's chances for it to not work depending on what you reveal off the top. Like all sorts of things can go wrong with that deck. So I'm kind of with you. I think that there's other cards that I would probably play instead of that. Honestly, even like in this situation, I'd probably play Armix Thrasios before I'd play Fransisco Thrasios. Yeah. Because I mean, what's the worst thing that happens? Okay, I pitch my Devoted Druid to the graveyard with Armix's ability. I kill whatever thing was keeping my Thrasios out of the zone. I cast Thrasios, and then I make infinite mana and win.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like,
why didn't we put that on here?
Great question.
Probably because we don't really see it. Yeah, I mean, it definitely has like an interesting combo there, and when it's paired with the Thrasios, at least it's within good colors to ensure that you can get to that combo more efficiently. But again, for the purpose of today, we're kind of looking at these individual cards and their impact on the format. And as a mono black, creature that you could partner, I don't really have this very high on my list. I think honestly, I give it like a 1.25.
I gave it a 1. So
did you?
Yes, it is.
All right.
So that actually works out pretty good. You said 1.25. What does that average out to, Mr. Math Man?
1.175.
1.125.
Ah! This is why I went into music and therapy.
This is why I went into science.
Oh man. Okay, let's get something a little bit different on here, because we've kind of lowballed some of these. So let's kind of go into one that we expect a little bit higher up, I think, on the list. Let's go with Rograkh, son of Rohgahh.
Oh man. What's funny is I was actually thinking, I literally said Rograkh right as I thought you were going to say it. And it was like, yes, let's talk about Roger.
So we have a 0-drop commander that is mono red and is a 0/1 that has First Strike, Menace, Trample, and Partner. Obviously. So thoughts on Rograkh?
This card's fucking busted. I don't think, I mean, everybody knows this card is just nutty. It's literally insane. Actually, you know what? I had wrote a number down. I'm going to change that. But no, I definitely think that this card is, God, it's a really good card, man. It's so good. Yeah.
That's really all we had
I don't even think I can say anything else, honestly. I think that this is my thing, okay? Like, and so I don't want this to influence how you rank this. I think that this card is absolutely busted. However, I don't necessarily think that it getting banned would shake up the format as much as what I initially put it down, because I think I put a certain number down because of the power of the card, like what it does for a deck. But like, I don't think that it would really shake the format up that much if this card went, because the only thing that it's really offering is red. It's definitely like in Rograkh, it's a resource, like you're using it to accelerate through mana and other stuff. And obviously in like your Rograkh list, like it's there to kind of be bounced and to do other goofy shenanigans, and it enables a lot of free stuff. But there are still low cost commanders that you could use to turn on a lot of your free stuff, which is fine. And in reality, like, this card doesn't have an effect when we have other mono red commanders that do have effects.
Right.
That you would obviously, I don't necessarily know that it would make sense to build around them, but you could. So I don't know. I just don't think, I think this card is super powerful, and I don't want to get that part twisted, but I don't think that banning it would have as much of an impact on the format as what we probably think it would. What is your opinion?
I think this one is like in a really tough position for me, because I agree with you pretty much on all of it, because it does enable more of the free interaction, like depending on the type of deck that you're playing in. Like, you're like, we're gonna say Rograkh for a second. Like, you play it, and then like instantly you can either do like a Culling the Weak or like a Diabolic Intent, like on turn 1 get a free tutor, or like Turo out more rocks, or try to grind out a fucking ad nause as quickly as you can. Like the free interaction with, you know, obviously like Fierce, Deflecting Swat, but even like Flare of Duplication, like becoming more and more popular in decks based around Rograkh is another kind of like either gotcha card where I'm going to counter your counter by copying your counter, or, oh, you're playing a tutor, I'm going to sack my Rograkh and I'm also going to tutor at the same time. Like,
or you're going to ad nause, I'm going to ad nause on top of your ad nause.
Right. Yeah. Like, basically the Mox Amber, like turning on a Mox Ruby as soon as it comes down, like, it's just really strong. It's really powerful, and I'm really glad to see that it's starting to branch out a little bit past Rograkh. Just because we like, and again, we're going back and kind of talking about the deck in particular, not so much the commander here. We'll get back to that in a second, but like, I think that what we're seeing in the meta right now, like Rograkh is still really strong. It's probably still the fastest deck in the format, but I think the numbers seem to be pretty inconsistent with tournament performance and things like that. And I think that just a lot more people are aware of what that deck is trying to do. And now you have Thrice, that it can explode just as quickly and can definitely push more into the mid to late game than just outpacing people in its mana production. But I feel like oftentimes I've seen like very like convoluted like win lines in that deck, whereas Rograkh has more consistent wins with the Underworld Breach packages and Thassa's and things like that. But as far as looking at this card, you know, taking really those two decks into consideration, and obviously I play it in the 99 of flubs. Like, it's such a great card in there. I just play it, flubs trigger, keep going.
Yeah.
But I think that it would definitely, I think where I do disagree with you on, you were saying that because it is like, it doesn't have great abilities and it is like monocolor and red, I still feel like it's going to shake up the format pretty drastically.
I 100% agree that it shakes up the format. I don't think that it shakes up the format as much as what my initial number was. That was the thing.
Okay.
I had a pretty large number, spoiler, but then I changed that number because I don't think it would have as much. It would definitely have a huge impact, but not to the degree of the number that I felt like I put down,
Okay.
if that makes more sense.
Yeah. So I am going to say that if Rograkh, son of Rohgahh, got banned today, that it would probably be I'm going to say a 8.
Well, that works out perfect because I said 8 also.
Oh, okay.
So it's an 8. If you want to know what my initial number was, I literally put like a 9.5.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I don't think that actually makes and like that's why I said like that's a big, like putting a 9.5, like that means that card's pretty impactful. I do think that it would shift things around. It would change stuff. I 100% agree with that.
Right.
But I just don't think that it's the most impactful.
Yeah. I agree.
Unless you've got some stuff on this list that I don't know about. Then
no, I mean, we looked at it together, so I didn't sneak anything else on here before we did it. Yeah. All right. So
so currently Rograkh is an 8.
Yeah. Well, and so I mean, we got our highest at the moment. We'll keep going. So how many we got so far? We got 4
we
or
have
5?
4.
We got 4.
Tana, Malcolm, Fransisco, and Roger.
Okay, let's go to another mono red one.
Okay.
Let's go to Krark the Thumbless.
Ooh, okay.
All right, so with Krark the Thumbless, we have a 2-drop 2/2 Goblin Wizard, and it says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this card is becoming much more prevalent now. You're seeing a lot of decks starting to run Krark that typically would have ran something like Rograkh. You still have obviously like Krark Saka, and that deck is kind of fallen off a little. Has kind of fallen off a little bit, but you're seeing the rise of things like Krark Silas, where it's literally just like one card combo with like you cast a demonic consultation, win your Krark flip, and then congratulations, you name Thassa's Oracle, you get the Thassa. And then the second one goes off and it exiles the rest of your deck, and then you just cast the Thassa or Tainted Packs. Like all same thing. Like it's enabling it's enabling you to cast counter magic and even double up on some of the counter magic or bounce some of it back to your hand to give you more recursion or like more opportunities to use it later, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then also like you're seeing people shift away from the Krark Sakashima list because there are things within the 99 of lists that are basically doing the Krark thing. So you have like things like like Harmonic Prodigy or whatever it is that target or like makes wizard things trigger additional times. Yeah. You have things like Delny, which makes Krark trigger additional times. Like all these things in the list that are basically doing what Sakashima does, but giving you can play other commanders and like get access to more stuff. So you could play things like Krark Tymna. Like I said, you play Krark Silas, like all these different things that you don't have to just commit straight to like, oh, well, I'll just put a second Krark in the command zone. It's like, no, you can put another type of like value engine in the zone. So I think that this commander is starting to pop up quite a bit more. Mm-hmm. With that being said, though, I don't know how impactful he would be if like he were to just disappear, because like he's not, I don't feel like he's established his foothold necessarily just yet with the current meta changes in the climate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. Like, I don't think you couldn't take Rogsai and take Rograkh out and slot Krark in without having to change up some of the deck composition, that makes Rogsai what Rogsai is.
Yes.
Like, it's something that he's definitely interesting, and like he has a really strong ability, but he kind of turns into one of those commanders you really have to build around.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like how we just talked about Rograkh, I use it as an example there. You don't have to technically build around him. You just fucking put him out there and he just sits there, or he enables your free stuff or the rocks or sacrifice outlet, whatever it might be. There's a lot more flexibility with it. Whereas this, like, if you are playing Krark Sakashima, you're obviously playing, is it storm type stuff, and it works really well. But if you go over to the like Krark Silas, like you were talking about, or like Krark Tymna, like you were talking about, like you're not necessarily playing cards in those decks that you would even in the Krark Sakashima, not aside from just the colors, but you're definitely not playing the same cards, I feel like, in those brews than you would the other decks that work more efficiently within the same color pairings. So yeah, he's cool, but I don't see him as being something that is super impactful if he were to get banned today. I think if I had to kind of rank him, I'm just gonna say a 3.25.
3.25? Okay. I gave it a 5 just because I felt like this is something that's probably on par with me of like a Malcolm. Like there are cards in the format that are specifically used because Krark is relevant, kind of like Malcolm's the same way. So I think that there would be probably an equal number of decks that would just disappear, like an equal number of Krark decks to an equal number of like Malcolm decks, like Malcolm Kedis, Malcolm Tana, Malcolm Tymna, stuff like that. Same thing, Krark Silas, Krark Tymna, Krark Saka. Like you would have I feel like an equal number of things that would just kind of disappear. Not a huge thing in the format, but all of a sudden, like, it would open up a couple of different strategies, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right.
What does that equal out to? What you got over there, Math Man? What do you think?
You said a 5.
Yep, and then you said 3.25.
Isn't it like a 4.375?
4.125. Did you really good at math?
I'm not that good at math if I keep fucking it up.
Oh, yeah.
I just kind of pick a number that's like seems like it's in the middle.
Yeah.
Let's keep this theme going. Let's keep going with some mono red commanders. So the next one I want to talk about is Dargo the Shipwrecker.
Yeah.
So for a 7-drop, we have a 7/5 giant pirate.
Yeah.
And he says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn.
Yes.
Now, earlier when we were talking about this, and we were actually kind of looking at some of the stats for like Dargo decks on the EDH top 16, Dargo's been placing okay here recently, and that's surprising because especially after the bans last year, Dargo was one of the ones most people were kind of looking at and going, he's probably like not going to be playable after everything that has happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, here we are, almost a year from that, and he's still putting up some decent numbers in the decks that he's in. And then you had even said that you're putting together a Dargo deck.
Yeah. I threw together Dargo Tymna just for fun, but because I don't think I've ever played, like in paper, I've never played a Dargo deck that I'm aware of, and I just kind of want to throw something together and see how it runs. I've watched plenty of Dargo decks play, and I understand like the premise of it, but it was never something that I was like, oh yeah, I want to throw that together. But here recently, since we've been doing more gameplay on the channel, yeah, I didn't do that intentionally, but I just thought about it.
What a plug.
I know, right? Segway King. But no, since we've been doing that more, I've been looking at lists that I could like put together as just something fun to like showcase on the channel. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, what would I want to play? Like if I could just throw like, if I had 3 lists that I wanted to throw together right now, what would it be? And for some reason, the first thing that popped in my head was Dargo. And I was like, let's throw a Dargo deck together. And I almost threw together Dargo Thrasios.
Okay.
But I instead went with Dargo Tymna because I felt like I would rather play a Mardu list than a Temur list, if that makes sense.
Because a few people already play Timberlist.
Yeah, and
local meta, Flobs, and then Rograkh. We got like 2 or 3 or 20 Rograkh going around right now. Like
Loot.
Yeah, we got Loot now. Yeah. So I don't blame you on wanting to try out some Mardu in our meta. I don't see. I guess even before the bans last year and now, I have not seen enough Dargo stuff to really like give a true evaluation of this card. But in my understanding of it, like kind of like how earlier I was talking about Fransisco, Dargo seems like it's a much more consistent combo piece that you already have in the zone, which is still pretty relevant, I think. And then you mentioned like the 2 main decks there that it seems to go pretty well with for what that game plan is trying to do. So I mean, I can't knock it for that. Now, if this card were to get banned today, and I guess I keep saying that over and over again. I'm gonna say it for every card. Like, we've already talked about 2 mono red commanders that are partners. There's another one that we have on this list that we'll talk about after this one. Is the Dargo strategy the most consistent or the most impactful to our format? Probably not.
No. I think that whenever you had other cards floating around, like, I mean, when you think about it, like, Jeweled Lotus is a great example. Like, it's already a ton of mana, like 3 mana to cast your commander. In a Dargo deck, it's 5 mana.
Yeah.
Because you crack it, and then so that counts for 2 of his cost, and then you get the 3 other. Like, that's insane. And then same thing with, like, Lotus Petal. That's 3 mana.
Yeah.
So like there were it like, even though Dargo's cost is what it is, it's not really that, if that makes sense. So you're really just looking at it as like a win con in the zone. Same thing. It's just another deck that's like, here's a win con in the zone. So I equate it a lot to like a Malcolm again, if that makes sense. Maybe not on par with Malcolm. There's more Malcolm lists than there are Dargo lists. Because again, I think blue is probably a better thing to have right now than red. But yeah, I do think that it's got something interesting that it does, but you really, if you want to utilize Dargo properly, you really have to build the list around the Dargo strategy. And there's a lot of really bad cards that you have to put into a list to build around a Dargo strategy. And there are much more efficient win cons. So I don't think that this card would have as big an impact. I agree with you if it were to go today. So what do you think? What's your ranking for?
I am probably going to rank this one pretty low.
That's fine.
And it's because I compared it to Fransisco, but I think it has a little bit more of a tried and true like strategy that it's going for because it's been in the format longer and people have played it. I'm probably going to give this one a 2.
Okay. I think that's totally fine. I gave it a 4 just because, again, like I compared it to something like Malcolm, but there are less lists overall for it.
Yeah.
But if you look at it right now, it's actually performing better than like Malcolm.
Right.
And so like I think that it would have an impact, but you would see less decks go. So I just kind of averaged it out there. I was like thinking somewhere between a 3 to a 5.
So you're kind of thinking like how it is currently performing in addition to what our criteria was as far as like if it got banned. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're thinking you're kind of averaging those 2 things out, and then that's what's coming up with your number there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no. I think that makes sense. I think I like it because it's a little bit different from what I'm looking at because I'm like, even though I can recognize the card, I'm looking strictly at, this is, if it were got to get banned, this is how much of an impact it has in the cEDH stuff. But I think that's a good thing for us both to have the different perspectives because when we average everything out, hopefully that it reflects that.
Yes.
So
what is that? 4 and a 2? What does that equal?
That'd be a 3.
Correct. I went ahead and put it down. I just wanted to see if you'd get that one right. I was kind of hoping you'd be like, that's a 3.7. No.
You gave me enough time. I already thought about it. I didn't have to do it on camera. So now I did already mention that we have another mono red. And this is like what? 4 or 5.
This is the fourth one,
in a row. Okay, so we have Jeska Thrice Reborn.
Oh, I love
so
Jeska.
now we have a Planeswalker. So we have a 3-drop Planeswalker that starts out with, technically speaking, 0 loyalty. It just says Jeska Thrice Reborn enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. It has a 0 ability where it says choose target creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. And then it has a -X ability. It says Jeska Thrice Reborn deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets.
Yeah, I love me some Jeska. I think she's fun. Obviously, like I've played Jeska Ishai on the channel. She's really bad thing to be doing right now. And even like some of the infinite mana combos now in red are just not that good. It's tough. I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough. Like without Dockside floating around and everything else, like you've got to really commit to being like, okay, I'm gonna go Bomberman combo, or I'm gonna go into that strategy. And I've not pulled that combo off very many times. It's sometimes people will literally let you get to the point of already cracking the LED and like pitching everything, and then be like, okay, now I'm gonna interact, and then you're sitting there with like no cards in hand, and it's like, ugh. So I mean, she's a tough one. You really got to build around her, and I don't know, just the build around her's not good. but I do love her. I do think she's cool.
Yeah, she definitely has some cool abilities. Like the 2 main decks I think that come to mind for me are Jeska Tymna and Jeska Ishai, like you were talking about, and that we've played on the channel. You've played. Go watch that video.
You may see Kennen die a lot.
You will see Kennen die a lot, and if that's what you're into, we'll make more content like that. Just fucking murder Kennen with a murder bird the whole time. So, but no, like I agree. I don't necessarily know if that's the full-on strategy that you want to go into. It is interesting because like both those decks are breach decks, and like you have one of them where you can't play Thassos, and then you have the other one where you can. So like with the Jeska Tymna, from what I've seen before, it's like you have to lean way heavier into that combination of things, whereas maybe even at times in Jeska Ishai, it feels like Jeska's kind of a backup plan, so maybe she's kind of there for the colors at times. And so, and
to be fair, I don't play Thassa in that deck.
Really?
Even in the breach line. I would rather just, if I had to, I'll go full brain freeze, but if not, then it's like,
well, that's probably, but again, that's probably easier to assemble at times than it is to try to combo out with Jeska and try to do the damage that way.
Yeah, it's much safer in my opinion to just try to commit to the breach line than to go like Bomberman combo.
Right.
Personally. So
well, and another thing to think about, like how many non-creature counter spells are there in our format?
A lot.
Even though like some of the more popular ones are like specifically targeting like instant sorcery, like having a Jeska get hit by an offer you can't refuse or a fierce guardianship feels kind of bad. So, you're just opening up more possibilities for your strategy to get shut down whenever you're not running a second creature in the command zone.
Well, and not only that, and this is my big thing right now too, why I think that Jeska's not seeing a lot of play, is there's better commanders to be doing infinite mana combos with. I will not name any names, but there are.
Well, we'll get to those in a little bit. So as far as ranking, I'm going to make you go first this time.
I give Jeska a 2.5.
I was thinking a 2.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Kind of almost in the same space as Dargo for me. So
what does that come out to, math man? It's like 2.25. All right.
You said 2.25 for yours?
I said 2.5. You said 2.
Oh yeah, 2.25.
Yeah.
All righty then. Let's kind of. How many are we at right now?
We are at 7.
Oh, we're like pretty much right there at halfway point.
Easy peasy.
Let's kind of branch off just a little bit. Let's keep it in red, but I think the next one that I have on here that we could talk about is Vial Smasher the Fierce. So, Vial Smasher the Fierce, you have a 3-drop for a colorless black and a red, a 2/3 legendary creature, Goblin Berserker. And it says, whenever you cast your first spell each turn, choose an opponent at random. Vial Smasher the Fierce deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to that player or a planeswalker that player controls. I know for the longest time I've been interested in putting together a Thras Vial Smasher deck. I've worked on several builds for it. I've just never jumped the gun on it because I think that like Sans White is pretty strong and pretty cool. Like, yeah, you're missing out on the Abolisher effects, but I feel like there's a lot of really cool things you could do within that color combination. But I think that's the reason why I bring that up, is because it's the color combination. For me, this is a commander that you're pretty much just playing for the colors if you are playing it. You know, I mentioned that deck. We mentioned Malcolm Vial Smasher earlier, and that's the more popular deck that we tend to see this commander in. But again, I think it's mostly there to make sure that you have their Grixis colors, you're doing like, and making sure like you can do more of the Glinthorn stuff with Malcolm. Malcolm is being the more important part of that deck, which is why I think we both kind of think of kind of more in the middle as far as impactful on like if it got banned, but it's still, this deck is performing really well overall, it seems like, in the meta because Grixis is just strong. But the way I see things, I think Vial Smasher is just there for the colors.
Yeah, yeah. Which is crazy because I do think that its colors are very strong, personally. But yeah, I do agree with you. I don't think it really does much besides that.
No.
Personally.
The color combination is obviously strong just because it gives you access to black tutors, wills, all sets of ritual type stuff that you want to be doing in the format. But I think that if you ever see anyone casting a Vial Smasher, they're probably in a bad spot in the game, to be honest.
Yeah, I would probably, yeah. I would never divulge that information. I would just be like, no. I say no.
Right.
I just bluff the mana or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're wanting those colors, based on what we have currently, you can get, there's better commanders that you can have to ensure that you have this color combination in the deck. So as far as a ranking goes, I'm probably going to give it a 1.5.
Really? Yeah, I'm struggling here too, if you want me to be honest with you. I probably would put it on par with, like I said, something like Tana, because that was what I was talking about originally. Like, so I'd say I gave Tana a 3, so I'd probably say like a 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because I do think that the colors are strong. Like, so yeah, I would say a 3.
Yeah.
I would say that I think this color pairing is better than the red green, but just personally. But then I think that this does it, like, because of the color combo that it's in, it kind of limits what you can then pair with it. So it's a little weird. But yeah, I do think so. I'm gonna say 3. And what number did you say?
1.5. 1.5. Yeah, just because even though I agree with you on the Tana part, and actually, hold up, what did I rank Tana? Remind me.
2.5.
2.5? This has got to be stronger than that. I'm just okay. Let me redact what I said. Let's give it a 2.75 because it does have black, and I know there's gonna be someone out there who's just like, you ranked Jeska and Dargo a 2 and gave Vial Smasher a 2.75 after saying that these other two are like combo outlets, and now you're just giving one that has the colors, so the higher ranking. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that.
But no, this is the thing, is like I would rather have like you okay, and this is actually, that's a good point to bring up. Having the win con or like the combo piece is totally fine, but it affects one card. Like it's the card that's in the zone.
Right.
Having access to a totally different color impacts the entire deck.
Right.
So like literally just adding in, like if Jeska was Rakdos colors, she would be so much better.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she would be way better than Vial Smasher. You would never play Vial Smasher. So the effect helps bring her up, but the lack of black makes her significantly worse.
Right.
So I do think that that's a fair. I mean, the color, I think, at the end of the day, is one of the most important things.
Yeah, and when we look at it that way, and we're talking about terms of if the card were to get banned and how much of an impact, like it would have, you're taking out a commander that gives you access to the black tutors that you're really looking for. So, I mean, that I think is a good enough point on its own to kind of give it a little bit of higher ranking than the other ones we just did.
No, I agree with that.
Even though it's still pretty low. All right. Let me look at this. Let's go to another 2-color combination because we just talked about Jeska a little bit ago. And then we brought this one up as well. So let's go ahead and talk about Ishai, Ojutai, Dragonspeaker. Murder Bird.
I love Murder Bird.
So we have a 4-drop, and it's in Azorius colors. So it's 2 colorless, a white and a blue, 1/1. That has flying, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ishai, Ojutai, Dragonspeaker.
Yeah.
You play this commander, you talk about it.
No, I think that this commander is hilarious. Don't get me wrong, it's very funny. But I do. Okay, here's the thing. I think that this commander is definitely a double-edged sword because on one hand, it's so funny to kill people with commander damage. Oh, it's so funny. But on the other hand, it's really risky to kill a whole player. Like, you kind of want to just be, and like I've heard other people talk about this too, you do want to just be winning the game. Taking out a player takes out a whole suite of removal or interaction that person may have. So I have specifically crafted the deck in a way that is not necessarily combo, like as combo heavy. Like some people play Jeska Shell with combos in it, and then they just have like Ishai there as like potential kill with the Jeska.
Yeah.
I did not take that strategy. I went super heavy into the Ishai plan.
Okay.
Lots of protection, lots of stuff in the deck to protect it. Tons of interaction in the deck. Tons of removal. Tons of kill spells, bounce spells. Tons of counter spells. I think I'm running like 15 plus counter spells in the deck because I knew that I was like, if I kill somebody, I've got to be able to stop the next person that's going to try and win. Right. So I've built the deck in a way to take that into consideration. Not a great thing to be doing, but a funny thing to be doing.
Right.
So for me, I mean, it would affect me a 10 out of 10 because I love the deck and I have it together.
Yeah.
But I think in like the actual terms of things, I'll let you talk before I actually throw out a number.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to pick this one apart because I've only seen it like a handful of times. The gameplays we did is an example of that. But like, I think that, I mean, it's got a good effect as far as whenever someone casts something, and you could go for the commander damage route. Sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
You know, like in that game specifically, that came out a couple weeks ago, you were playing on Murder Bird. Atraxa was in that pod too. You know, and the deck that comes to mind to me the most that actually is trying to do more commander damage, like Tivit, being still a pretty strong deck within the format. But I mean, we can't say that commander damage isn't necessarily a viable strategy because it definitely can be, but it's very situational like what you're talking about there because you don't want to remove a player most of the time. But most people will look at that and go, well, shit, this thing's getting bigger every single time I cast something and I can't just hold back because like either I'm going to die to the commander damage or I'm not going to be able to advance my board state so I can win myself. Now, is it a card that I see like shaping the format, or if it were to get banned, like it completely change things up? No, not really. But I think I'm more willing to rank it a little bit higher than what I just did Vial Smasher because of its colors there. Like, yeah, you don't have the black, but blue-white is still really powerful just because you have access to all the counter magic, you have access to all the silence effects. Like, there's a lot of things you can be doing with... there's a lot more that I think you can get out of that color pairing than you can Rakdos at times. So I think that as far as an impact goes, I'm just going to say a 3.5.
You're going to give it a 3.5. That is very interesting.
I feel like I've been lowballing a lot of these.
No, I think that's fine. I think I have had a tendency to rank higher than you. I don't think there's been a single time besides Fransisco. That was the only card that I've ranked lower. I actually, believe it or not, I gave Ishai a 2. So this is one, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually even ranked this lower than Jeska. And part of the reason for that is because I think that it's a commander that is in a weird spot to where like you have to pair it with another commander for it to be like pretty viable. I've tried a few different pairings with it. I've tried Bruce with it, which I think is funny. It is funny. But the thing that sucks is like you can gain a lot of life with the Bruce thing, but you don't have things like Adnaz or Necro and things to take advantage of it. So it's kind of tricky. It's like, well, it's useless. I've tried the Kedis plan. That plan seems really funny because like it hits everybody.
Right.
It's like asymmetrical hate or symmetrical hate or whatever. But man, you can't politic that way.
No, not at all.
So I went with the Jeska plan because again, it's an option. I've actually even thought about just taking the Jeska out of it and putting together like an Ishai Tymna, so that you still have the value of a Tymna, and then you just it's like a mid-range hell security package, if that makes sense. Like Ishai is just gonna sit there, and if people want to continue to cast stuff and the games go long, I'm gonna beat face and win.
Right.
If the games do not do that, then I'm eventually gonna find a silence effect. I'm gonna slap that bad boy down, and I'm gonna do Thassa Consult.
Right.
So I've thought about throwing that together. But then when I think about doing that, I'm like, I feel like there would be better things to be doing with Tymna. So it's a little tricky.
And I think that's what I was about to say. Like, if you're putting that much time into thinking about these different strategies for it, then, like, again, kind of going back to why we're doing this, like, if you're putting that much time and effort into thinking of these different strategies, then clearly the commander is not as impactful to the format itself.
Yeah.
You know, because, like, we'll talk about Tymna later. We'll talk about Kraum. We'll talk about all those.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We're getting there. But all of those strategies in the very top decks that are running partner pairings, they have a very clear-cut plan. You can't really budge too much off of that. You can add a pet card here and there, but aside from that, you know what the strategy is. You're not going to divert from that. Whereas with what you're talking about there, and you're going more into like the brewing side of things and seeing what you could do, that's nice. It's fun. Like, it could definitely get people, but that's not what shapes the format.
Correct.
So, all right. Moving.
We didn't tally her up. Yeah. So with the total together, that gives Ishai a 2.75.
Okay. Awesome. Let's go to another 2-color combination that we have not talked about Reyhan yet, have we?
We have not.
Okay, let's go to Reyhan, Last of the Abzan. So we have a 3-drop in Golgari colors. Almost fucked that one up. So a colorless, a black, and a green, and it starts as a 0/0, but it says Reyhan, Last of the Abzan, enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had one or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature. It's definitely an interesting commander. We don't see this one pop up too often, but I think that we were just kind of looking at something a little bit different to throw on here. But I do think it opens up some interesting strategies, at least that are playable within our format. Like I was telling you earlier, like I've even come up with like a brew, and I feel like some of the other channels have kind of caught on to it here recently. I'm not claiming ownership of the brew itself, but like doing a Rograkh Reyhan where you're doing like some food chain type stuff, and you're like, you can almost do like Walking Ballista in that, or Agatha Soul Cauldron to make sure that's turned on, where you're just infinitely casting your commanders and then like just being able to ballista the table somehow and do things like that. it's in good colors to be able to do that, whether it is you're trying to go for a strategy with the creature tutors, the regular like vamp, demonic tutor, whatever it might be. If you're trying to specifically get Walking Ballista in the graveyard, you have Entomb, you have Buried Alive. So, I mean, it can definitely play into some decent strategies that Golgari is trying to do, and then has a really interesting effect. But at the same time, I think most players are probably going to look at this and go, I'm probably going to use it just for the colors. If I really want to play Jund, or I don't want to play Glarb, but I want to play Sultai, I'll probably play this. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think it's cool. I've made some builds around it, haven't played tested it or anything like that. But I think that if we see it, it's going to be there for the color combination more so than anything else.
No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I think that same thing. It's good colors. Just it's got two great colors in its color identity. Just a weird pairing of them together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I definitely think that it's still great. But it, because of the colors that it itself has, it limits what you could pair with it, which causes it to be a little bit janky. But I definitely think it's cool. Now the ability, I don't think is doing a ton for you. I told you I'm a little bit partial to Reyhan because like obviously the first deck that I ever threw together whenever I got into Commander was there. But the first deck that I tried to brew, because I saw the partner mechanic and I was like, oh, that seems neat. And the first deck that I tried to brew right after that was Ishai and Reyhan. And I think Reyhan is super cool, but I don't know. Think not going to make a huge waves in cEDH.
Right. No. And I agree with you. Even if it is just for the colors, I think there's better options. Now, I will say this, where we just did Ishai and we did just do Vial Smasher, I'm going to have to ask you what I did for the total, for my numbers on those. But I do think that this might be slightly better than Vial Smasher, especially given our current meta, just because green seems a little bit better positioned than red does for the time being. I think Rakdos overall, like in the history of Magic, has been stronger potentially than Golgari stuff.
Yeah.
But I think where green is becoming a little bit more prominent in our format.
Yes.
And creature-based combos are a little bit stronger than they used to be. I think that this one just is slightly above what I had on Vial Smasher. So what did I put on Vial Smasher?
You put Vial at a 2.75.
2.75. Let me give Reyhan a 3.
A 3. Interesting.
Yeah, let me give it a 3. Just because I think the colors there could be a little bit more impactful than that, but I think it's still so low on the list that I don't see that, it's not going to be one of our top contenders for sure.
Okay. See, I did the opposite. I gave it a 2.5.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny because me and you did like the opposite. I specifically thought that it was worse than Vial Smasher.
Really?
Yes, because I do agree with you. Green is better for sure. But I think that the nice thing about something like Vial Smasher is that, again, it allows other partners to pair with it and you still get some pretty solid color pairing or combos out of it. Whereas Reyhan kind of limits that. Like if you're gonna pair, like green is good, but if you're trying to pair stuff with it that are other good like partners, it's going to fuck up the color ratio of stuff or like the color combos that you can get. So I feel like the Rakdos pairing specifically on one card and then giving you more creativity or freedom around it is just a little bit better. So that's why I rated it just a little worse.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's, we've been talking about some pretty weak ones.
Yeah.
Let's get into another, like, powerhouse of the format.
Well, I think that was our 10th one, right?
That was our 10th?
Yes.
Okay, so we are at number...
5 more?
Yeah, we have 5 more. We're at number 11. Let's talk about Kraum.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's throw him in here. So... we have Kraum Ludvic's Opus. We have a 5-drop that's in Izzet colors, so 3 colorless, a blue and a red. That's a 4/4 with flying and haste. And whenever an opponent casts his or her second spell each turn, draw a card.
This card's fucking cracked.
This card is nuts.
It's just so much mana.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue that it's a bad card. It most definitely is one of it. How am I going to put this? I almost feel like I'm about to admit defeat, but because of the recent unbannings and how people are kind of speculating the use of gifts ungiven, like really like being useful in other, like across like multiple decks, but being able to have another intuition type ability within blue farm, and especially with some of the results and the conversion rates now, I think blue farm has now like edged out TNT in my mind because like for the longest time I've said I felt like TNT is the strongest and like so on and so on, but now it's just like, how can you say that with what they've recently done and the numbers and things like that? So it's just good. It just costs a lot, just like you said. I think that before the bannings from last year, even whenever I was playing Blue Farm, I was leaning more into Kraum as a better strategy for that deck compared to Tymna.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And I there are times I think it's still kind of the same way. You know, they're both good card draw engines. It's just that Tymna requires a slight more of a setup and is not always consistent because, like I just made the point a little bit ago, I think that not just with creature-based strategies for like win cons and things like that, but I think that you're starting to see more and more creatures pop up overall in decks. It makes it harder for Tymna just to get through at times. And Kraum just sits there and just draws you cards.
That's the thing, is Kraum is one of those things where like it's kind of the same thing, that it's good obviously to be doing things, but we look at some of the best draw engines or the best things in Commander, like in cEDH in general, and it's things like Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora, things like that, where it breaks parity on the fact that you have multiple opponents versus like just one you. So Tymna is good, but it's reliant on you doing things. Kraum, you don't have to do a damn thing. You set on it. It literally, like, if your opponents are doing stuff, you're going to net cards. And if they just decide, well, I'm not going to play into your Kraum, you're like, that's fine. I'll just beat your ass with a Kraum.
Right.
And the colors on it are solid. It gives you access to, like, I have obviously been, like, you know, on our, I've talked multiple times that I think that this list is, I think Blue Farm is better than Tymna Thrasios. I definitely think that Tymna Thrasios is a strong deck. I'm not shitting on that deck at all. I think it is great. I was a little hesitant to like say that it was really good whenever it first like started making its ways again. I was like, that's probably like, this is just going to be around for a bit and then it'll kind of fall up. I was wrong. But I still think that Blue Farm is the strongest deck. I think that simply for the fact that like you just, I mean, it's like no bad cards. They're all great cards. Right. And every time we get something, it's like the Gifts Ungiven thing. It's just right, great card, and it makes the deck even better, things like that. I just think that it's I don't know. I think Kraum is super strong, especially with when you factor in like the colors that it has at it, the ability that it has. I mean, it's basically just it's just good. It's really, really good.
And this is where I kind of feel conflicted at the moment because we just gave a lot of reasons why Blue Farm was really good. But we're evaluating this card in particular and how impactful it is in the format. And it's realistically, it's only ran in one deck. You know, and while that is the top deck of the format, it's only in one. It's not like how Tymna, how we've talked about it. It's not like how Malcolm, how we've talked about it, or even Dargo, Jeska, any of the other ones that we've talked about they've branched off into different decks, slightly different archetypes, different strategies, things like that. Kraum is solely in this one deck, but it's the top deck. So it's like, and plus, you know, I think I gave Rograkh an 8. I think we both gave Rograkh an 8. You're adding blue, you know, and so maybe part of, I mean, the blue is obviously the strong part of it if we're looking at from a color combination standpoint. I don't know. I feel very conflicted on this one, but I think that if I had to put a number to it, I'm going to give it an 8.5. And that might actually seem kind of low compared to what most people would do. But I think that it's obviously you are getting one more color over Rograkh. And if I've ranked that the highest that I did until then, and it being the strongest color in our format, it gets a little bit of a boost. It's in the top deck in the format. But and for those reasons alone, it kind of deserves where it is currently for me. But I'm almost willing to say there's some others on this list that might be a little bit more impactful. So where are you at?
I gave it a 8.75.
Okay,
so
we're pretty close on that one.
Yeah, we were pretty in alignment.
Yours is probably a little bit more accurate, but
I started going into the decimals after you kept doing the decimals. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna embrace it. That is an 8.625.
All right. So Kraum is our highest currently on the list. Let's go to one that we probably aren't going to be ranking as high.
Ooh, okay.
Let's take it a little easy for a second before we get into these last few. Let's go to Sakashima of 1,000 Faces.
Oh God, I forgot he was still.
Yeah, he's still on this list. Like I said, we're jumping around on this, so yeah, we're just saying fuck it. We're gonna jump around and listen to these gunshots down.
Hell yeah.
So all right,
we're talking about Murder Bird.
Yeah, send it. So we have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. We have a 4-drop, the 3 colorless and a blue, 3/1 that is a human rogue. And it has, you may have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of 1,000 Faces other abilities. And the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. All right, so we're going a little bit easier with this one. Mono blue, not as, I feel like not as debatable as, what we just talked about with Kraum. But, I mean, it's at least within a strong color for being a monocolor. Strongest one in the format. We mostly see it in just the Krark, the Thumbless, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces decks, so the Is It Storm decks. And then, I mean, I know that you've kind of talked about here and there, like the Tymna Sakashima decks. Back whenever like Talion came out, this was a card that was played in the 99 at least to get more Talion triggers. But I mean, that deck has kind of fallen off. And even Talion as a whole, I feel like has fallen off because it's not even seen play in like cEDH or blue form at times. And whenever that card came out, it was seeing pretty consistent play. But I think a lot of people are starting to go off of it.
I am still running it in Zer, to be fair.
Are you?
Yeah.
I think that makes a little bit more sense. It gives you another value engine technically. And I mean, that card is still pretty strong. It can be, but that's not the one we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So as far as Sakashima goes, like, I think it's just, I wanted to believe that it could have been one of the stronger cards because when we previously like did the random rank, I ranked the Krark Sakashima deck kind of high, and then it ended up being dog shit based on what its actual standings were. So yeah, this is one that's pretty low for me, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that this card, if you had asked me this before all the bans and stuff had happened, I would say that this card is like really good. Post-ban, I just think that there are better things to be doing with Krark, personally, and you get access to more colors. You may lose blue, which is a really strong color, but you get access to other stuff.
Yep.
And honestly, I don't know that that's such a bad thing that you lose some of the blue. Like, it is, Krark decks are, like it can tend to be just a little bit slower, and I think that right now, slow is kind of the way to go. You don't really want to be the first person going for the win, I feel like. You're going to get stopped, and somebody else is going to win on top of you. Everybody's just kind of sitting there holding up their counter magic, waiting to be the second person to go. Krark's kind of one of those decks that just makes it hard to stop stuff. So, like, Sakashima's just kind of in a weird spot. But, I just don't think it's good right now. It's not something I'd want to be doing.
Right.
And even whenever it was Krark Sakashima, That deck had one glaring like weak spot, and so it's just kind of the exact same thing. I was saying I just don't think it's good right now. But where would you rank it?
I think I give this one like a 1.75.
I gave it a 1.5.
Okay.
That works out good.
Yep.
That works out good.
All right. We only got 3 more left, don't we?
Fuck. I can imagine which ones they are.
Yeah, the last 3 are doozies. I don't know how much more debate there is on them, but
we're going to have a debate on one.
We're going to have a debate on one. Well, probably. Spoilers. Not really spoilers. They don't know.
You're right.
All right. So let's go to Silas, Renn, Seeker, Adept. Golly. So for Silas, Renn, we have a 3-drop for a colorless, a blue, and a black.
Mm-hmm.
A 2/2 legendary artifact creature, human.
Mm-hmm.
With Death Touch, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. So I think overall as a card, it is not the best, right? As a card itself, it is not the best. But I think that this might be the only one that we see that's an actual Dimir commander.
Yep.
For partners, or at least one we typically see for partners.
There is no other Dimir.
No, and that is I feel like definitively the strongest color combination in the format, where you have Thassa's and most simple win con you can go with. I think you can't really argue that whatsoever, because that is the win con that has kind of really shaped and defined where we are at and where we have been at, and this is the commander that allows that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you literally pair this with whatever and you get what you need to win, pretty
mm-hmm.
much. So it's mostly there for the colors. I do know that sometimes especially in Rograkh, like if someone's in a pinch and they need to get like a Lotus Petal or an LED back and reset some lines, they'll cast and swing with it trying to get it back. Typically, you're never going to cast this as your commander. It is just there for the colors. But I think because you just made that comment of it as the only Dimir one, or at least, again, unless they print some in the future, like, it's hard to argue that this one is like ranked, like it has to be ranked pretty high, I think, just because of that. So
yeah, I agree. I think that the card sucks, but the color, just as we have established, it just makes it so much better. And I think that it's so funny because, like, I looked at something like Vial Smasher and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd rank you a little higher because of your color combo. This is leagues above,
right?
Something like that. So it is just funny how the color combinations matter,
right? And I think that even with that said, I don't think it's still ranked as, for me at least, I don't think I rank this as high as some of the other two that are the highest currently.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do only see this in one deck, and we have acknowledged, and other channels have acknowledged, that deck is kind of falling off.
Mm-hmm.
So if we see some other kind of Silas deck popping up that starts performing well, and it's mostly there because of the colors and there's more consistency with it than what Rograkh can offer currently, then it'd probably be a little bit higher up on the list for me. But I think overall, I am probably going to rank this one as 7.5.
That is the exact thing I gave it.
All right.
It is a 7.5. Easy peasy. Yeah, definitive 7.5.
And he's not just like making this stuff up on the spot. Like, I'm watching him write things down even before I say a number and before we even start explaining things. So,
yep, that's pretty good. Yeah, 7.5. I definitely agree with you. Now I do remember telling you, Krark Silas is still a deck, but
yeah.
But again, I mean, it doesn't really change anything. It's
still there for the colors.
It's just Grixis.
Yeah.
Yep. So I agree with you 100%. We're in total agreement with 7.5.
All right.
Yeah, we're smart.
The first one.
No, we had one other one, didn't we?
What's the math on that one?
Oh, fuck. 7.5 plus 7.5 divided by 2.
Don't think too hard. Don't do it. We got two more to get through.
8.6 million.
God.
No, we agreed, which is funny as fuck. Actually, we only agreed on one other one, and it was Rograkh. We just agree on Rogside.
Apparently. And you fucking hate that deck.
Yeah.
So, all right. Last two, right? So, let's go with Thrasios Triton Hero.
Okay.
All right. So, this is Simic. Now, for a green and a blue, we have a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard that has, for 4 colorless, scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, draw a card. I'll let you speak on this one first.
I'm debating on where to even put this at. I'm genuinely like a little bit. Okay, so this is my reasoning behind this one. I don't think that it's kind of like I said earlier where I was talking about Rograkh. Like, you have other options. It definitely fucks up the partners, but I think that if this card were to get completely just axed, it's very easily replaceable in the sense that you just start running something like Atraxa. And that deck was really good before this became popular. Now, probably wasn't doing as good as like Thrice has. And honestly, I definitely think that it would mess up a lot of decks simply because like you're seeing so many people go really green heavy right now. You're seeing so many people go super heavy into infinite mana outlets and combos and things like that. Whether it's literally taking like the Valley Floodcaller Retraction Helix stuff, whether it's the Devoted Druid and like the Hazel's Brewmaster lines, the Swift Reconfiguration stuff, like just all of these lines going so heavy into that. So I definitely think that it shakes up the format quite a bit, but I think that losing this would be much easier to replace than losing something like a Kraum, if that makes sense. You may disagree.
I'm disagreeing with you hard
Go
on this
ahead.
one. Because I know that if you've made it this far in the video and you're paying attention and you're watching, you're going to think I'm fucking stupid. I know it. Everyone in the community will think that I am. And maybe, as Ian says at times, this might be a hill that I'm going to die on. I think Thrasios is probably the best partner that we have in the format. And not just from it being in the command zone specific. Because if you were to ban this card, obviously TNT goes away. Arguably second best deck in the format, right? You no longer have it in the 99 of Kennen. Like, one of the main win outlets in the Kennen deck that makes it run the most efficient, gone. The Rograkh deck, gone. Like, you can do so much with this card. You know, even if you're just playing like general Simic colors and you put this in the 99, guess what? You like just how Kennen is. You have something you can do on every turn. You can be reactive. You can try to be proactive. It allows you the opportunity to make use of like your top deck tutors a lot more efficiently. Like, we are in a Seedborn Muse meta, like untapping and then putting multiple like Thrasios activations on everyone else's turn. Like, it's, I think, the strongest commander that we have. It having blue, so you have access to the counter magic. The fact that it's a 2-drop, so that way it pretty quickly turns on your things like the Mox Ambers and your Fierce Guardianships and you know, some of your free interaction like that, or free pieces like that. It's a 1/3. Like, people talk about Draenith being a problem, and this is the same body here. It's just you have 2 colors, and one of them is the strongest color in the format. So, I mean, it doesn't quickly die to Bowmaster. Like, it doesn't, like, if someone's running a bolt, like, that'll kill it. Like, obviously, it'll die to other forms of removal, but the body on it itself is actually okay because of that 3 toughness. It is not just a card draw engine in the command zone, but it is also the combo piece.
Yeah.
In all decks that are running it as part of the commander. Like, there's so much flexibility with this commander, whether it is in the zone or in the 99, that I think that, even if it doesn't necessarily impact blue form whatsoever, you're touching 3 of the top 5 current ranked like decks in the format. Yeah, cEDH doesn't necessarily play it. cEDH could fucking play it if you want to go like a clam chowder build and fucking do like Thrasios activations and draw out your deck and shit. Like, you could do that. But like, I think that this commander is really, really strong. I think it's, for me, it's definitely the best that I think we have in the format. And that's why I've leaned more towards TNT, that I have blue form at times. But it's just the card that has everything you want, I think, that we are looking for when we are playing cEDH.
Okay, to be fair, I wasn't thinking about it in the 99 as much, so I will agree with you there. I do see what you're saying also, because again, like it's literally like, you think about the things that we were talking about earlier, like Jeska, Dargo, all these other things, like they are combo pieces in the zone. Or you think about things like, I don't know, like other decks that have the combo, like the win con in the zone. Like, it makes sense. Like, oh, this is the combo piece. Well, Thrasios is the combo piece, but if he's not the combo piece and you just have extra mana laying around, why don't you get some card draw off of it? Why don't you ramp? Like,
he's kind of like Kraum in that way.
Yeah.
Where he can like just sit there and you don't really have to do much, but then, it's your end step. I'm just going to put activations into it, maybe ramp, maybe draw some extra cards, whatever the fuck I want to do in this moment.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So I do agree with that. And there are quite a few Thrasios decks popping up right now. But, so again, yes, it would shake up the meta quite a bit. But I just can't agree with the sentiment that, like, I don't think it's the best commander.
Fucking, we forgot about this one. Even though it doesn't see much play, and Bruce isn't on our list. Like, there's Dawnwaker Thrasios.
Yeah, well, that deck's cool, but it's just not showing up. But no, and like, don't get me wrong, I definitely agree with you. I think that, like, obviously with the sense of like Rograkh, obviously like TNT, the Vial Thras we were talking about, like all these decks, like they're really, really cool lists. I think they're great. I think that Thrasios is super strong, just like we were talking about in Kennen. Like, for sure, it's one of like your best. It's very efficient. It's an efficient win con. Like, obviously, like, it's great. I'm not saying that it's bad by any means. And thinking of it in terms of the 99 did shift my opinion that I had a little bit. So I definitely like adjusted things. But man, I don't think it's the strongest. I think that we have one other commander that we need to talk about.
Oh, we will.
And I think that one's
the strongest.
I think that one would make a significant.
All right. Well, do you want to know what I rate Thrasios at least before we move on? Okay, so I think I put Thrasios at 9.5.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I initially had put it even with Kraum. I put 8.75. I adjusted that whenever I thought in terms of the 99. And the reason that I put it as a 9. So it's a 9.25 technically. But the reason that I did that was because of the 99 argument, and also it being a combo piece in the zone, having that extra little win con there, I think is great. But I do think that it would be easily replaceable in the sense of, I won't say easily replaceable because some of these other decks couldn't replace it technically, but like it would get replaced very quickly with something like just a Traxa type list or something like that, or even you would just have another Esper list come along, and it, you know what I mean? Like, it would just, Yeah. No, I do think green's fucking insane. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on this card. I think that this card's fantastic. I'm not knocking it.
I don't know. It sounds like you're hating on this card.
Well, I have to whenever I compare it to the other thing because you made it sound like this was definitively like the best.
For
thing.
me, I know I feel like this is definitively the best partner, and I think that if it were to get banned today, it would shake up the format the most.
You think? Okay. Well, let's talk about the last one. What's the last command?
Yeah. So, the last one, and I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. Now, maybe my take that I just had was a surprise to most people, and they were like, Trace, you're fucking stupid for thinking that. But, like I said, I'll die on that hill. The last one that we have, the most anticipated one, Tymna the Weaver.
Yes.
So, we have a 3-drop in Orzhov colors that is a colorless, a white and a black, 2/2 human cleric with lifelink, and at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards.
Yes.
I'll let you talk about it first.
I think this is the best commander in the whole format. And I'm not saying that in like a bad way, but like anytime you think about the first thing that I feel like people ask themselves whenever they pick up a partner is they go, does this pair with Tymna? You have Dargo Tymna, which we were just talking about, is like winning a lot of things. Krark Tymna just won a tournament not long ago on like Play to Win. Like Tyler won it, and like that list is becoming like much more popular. You have Tymna Thrasios. Tymna's part of that. Tymna Kraum, which the top 2 decks in the format currently are both Tymna lists, not Thrasios lists. They're Tymna lists. You think about the fact that like there's still people that played like Tymna Rog, which I'm not saying that list is great, but like it was a list that people would play. I mean, dude, even like before Blue Farm got its name, it was Mad Farm. You know what I mean? Like there were
with Tymna Bruce.
Yeah. So like Tymna was the same thing. She was a part of that. We've talked about Sakashima Tymna, Malcolm Tymna. I mean, Tymna, I feel like is the thing. Not even like I'm not even saying her ability is insane. Like it's good. Don't get me wrong, but the color combination that she brings to the table, allowing you to pair her with like just about any damn thing. I literally saw a Tymna Sadar Kondo list that did it did good at a tournament. And there was Tymna Tana Blood Pod. Like it pairs with every damn thing.
Well, and I'm not disagreeing with you on any of that, and I understand that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because when you think white, you get all the silence effects. When you think black, you get all the tutor effects.
Mm-hmm.
I think that even though she splashes well into any kind of deck that you want, and you're kind of looking for those effects because the black's going to give you a lot more of the consistency. The white's going to give you the protection a little bit more going into your turns. I don't like, how do I put this? How am I thinking this? Like, I think she's definitely one there that is just mostly there for the colors. Because right now it's kind of harder to sneak some of that damage through in the format that we're playing. Where, yeah, it might be nice to get a couple of like Tymna triggers here and there, but I don't think that's always the most efficient way of trying to do the card draw strategies. And again, just people are dumping creatures on board, and it's just harder to get through. I think that there's a point in the game where like her abilities just become irrelevant.
I agree.
But I think that's why I rank her a little bit lower. Like, not, I understand that she is like very, I guess probably the most generic is the way I would put it. She's the most generic commander that you can slot her into anything, and the deck's probably going to be good.
Yeah.
I don't have any doubt on that. But I do think that decks that tend to lean into her as a strategy overall are a little bit weaker.
Okay.
As opposed to if they are strictly using her for the colors.
I definitely agree with that, but she's present there regardless. Like, even if a list is winning without like leaning necessarily into her,
Right.
she's still the reason that they can play that deck. Like if you take Thrasios completely, and we'll just think about like the top decks, like right now, if you take Tymna, like any deck that has Tymna in it right now off the list, what ends up being the best deck?
Probably right now.
Yeah. Any list that has Tymna in it.
Right. Kennen.
Okay.
Yeah.
You take Thrasios off the list instead of Tymna. What deck ends up being the best deck?
Wait. It's already the current best.
That's my point.
I
That's what I'm saying.
know exactly what you're saying.
But that's what I'm saying. So like Tymna, if you take Tymna away, then there is no like, you know what I mean? There's no Thrasios deck on there yet at that point, like at the top. But like Tymna,
well, no, there would still be Thrasios
in the top 10, but I'm saying not at the top. Like Tymna is in the top 2. Like there is a
maybe Rograkh would take the top spot over Kennen. Over time, I think it would.
I'm not gonna disagree necessarily. I don't know. Maybe. I just personally think that Tymna, because again, like we have established earlier, like the colors do matter. I just think that if you cut that color combination out of there, that just immediately like fucks with a lot of like these Esper lists, and you have to start playing like objectively worse commanders in there. I mean, you just gotta look at the common denominators, man. Like,
well, so let me be the one that has the hot take for the video for once.
Okay.
Because I'm not really disagreeing with you on any point that you're making, and I understand that. I just think that looking at the card, each of those 2 cards, and looking what they can do and what they provide, because it's like in one hand you have a commander. And I'm going back to Thrasios, obviously. You have a commander that does everything you want, right?
We're talking about Thrasios?
Yes.
Okay.
So it literally does everything that you want as far as card draw. It has ramp. It is a combo piece. It enables like some of your cheaper interaction or free interaction pieces slightly earlier than what Tymna does, versus... Yes, it's the generic commander, but it's slotted into almost every deck and is in at least two of the top decks, being Blue Farm and TNT, but you're not really utilizing it outside of just the colors.
Yes, I definitely agree.
It's two completely different approaches. I think it just really comes down to what people are looking for more.
Yes, I definitely agree with you, but I just think that if Thrasios was the better partner of the 2, then you would see Thrasios, Tymna at the top, and then below that you would see like Rograkh. You would see like you would see Thrasios X, Thrasios X, Thrasios X, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing Tymna X, Tymna X. And even whenever Malcolm strategies and stuff like that were very viable, it was Tymna and another X. Like certain cards got shifted around, and then obviously like they fell out a little bit, but like Tymna is the one common denominator in most of those decks. She doesn't mean that she is a better... I'm not saying that Tymna alone is a better card than Thrasios. Like Thrasios, she is like card advantage, Thrasios is card advantage. She doesn't really do anything else after that besides like colors. Thrasios is still in great colors. Yeah. I think that's fantastic.
I think Thrasios is in better colors.
I think
what
that,
Orzhov is.
And I don't disagree with that really, but I think that Thrasios as a card is better. Thrasios as an impact on the game, not even close. Now, as a card, probably a better card. Impact on the game, not even close.
All right, so where are we ranking these?
I smacked Tymna literally at 10. I think that if she goes, you literally see the top 2 decks go. The next deck is not a Thrasios deck even at that point. You end up with something like Kennen, or maybe Sisay would end up jumping into the spot. I don't know what would happen there, but I just genuinely think that if she gets cut, that makes the biggest splash. I mean, there was a reason why me and you even asked each other, like, what makes the bigger splash, Rograkh or Tymna getting cut? And I mean, I just think you know what I mean? Like Thrasios didn't come up at that point either.
No, but when we asked that question is because of two completely different things. I think the Tymna was because of the amount of decks that open up to her, and Rograkh was because of the type of interaction that can be built around him. Was that. I'm going to put her at 9.25.
You're going to put her at a 9.25?
Yeah. Am I killing you?
It's okay. It's okay.
I'll be the one that has the hot take. I already said that.
Okay. It's okay.
So let me know I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
You've told me I'm wrong.
You're just silly. Okay. Do you want our official rankings of everything?
Yes.
Okay, let me go through and actually officially rank them then. You know, you said start from the bottom and work our way up?
Yeah.
Okay. So based off of the ranking that we have put together, so in last place, so there's 15 commanders. 15th place is Fransisco, Fowl Maurader, with a 1.125.
Okay.
14th place was Sakashima at a 1.625. 13 was Jeska at a 2.25. And then we had a massive three-way tie.
Okay.
For 10th, technically.
Okay.
Between Tana, Ishai, and Reyhan, all at 2.75.
Huh. Okay.
Yep. I know. Very interesting. Number 9, we had Vial Smasher at a 2.875. 8, we had Dargo at a clean 3. 7 was Krark at a 4.125. 6 was Malcolm at a 4.375. 5 was Silas at a huge leap up at a 7.5. 4 was Rograkh at an 8.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah. 3 was Kraum at an 8.625. 2 was Thrasios at a 9.25. And the number 1 was Tymna the Weaver at a 9.625.
All right. There it is. It's a long list, but honestly, even with the three-way tie, I felt like that was kind of accurate.
Pretty much, yeah.
For where it all should be at anyway.
Yeah.
You know, because even whenever you said there was a pretty significant jump between the one before Silas to Silas, that's fitting because some of these commanders that we talked about, even though we see them in the format, they're not as frequent or they're not performing as well as the top end of our curve here.
Yeah.
So I think that all makes sense. Yeah. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that if there was anything that really shocked me is that we have Rograkh below Kraum. That is probably the one thing that I was like, wow. But it just goes to show you how strong blue is. And card advantage, honestly. So
maybe that kind of answers our previous question on between the Tymna and the Rograkh, you know, because it's like you were saying, Tymna opens up a lot more possibilities in different decks, and you have the still decent colors, whereas the Rograkh, you're looking for the more of the free interaction type pieces or what it can turn on. But in the decks that have been using those commanders, we have seen a lot more of the consistent numbers using the Tymna decks, even though I don't want to admit that because I like the Thrasios more. But we've seen the more consistent versus some of the turbo decks that are using Rograkh in the command zone. So I think that still is kind of fitting and reflects that from what we put together tonight.
Yeah.
So
I think that at the end of the day, and this is one of the things that, I don't know, I think if anything, like, this showed me is that the colors that decks open you up to matter so much more than just the ability on the card alone. Obviously, like, when you compare two things together that are, like, fantastic, that definitely helps. But that one color pip in the commander affects so much about how your deck is built. So I think that was something that really surprised me. Is like even like for some of these, like we literally had like Jeska or some like what is it? Like I said, Jeska and Sakashima and some of these other things like. These things that are part of like the win strategy or the win con. Fransisco, same thing. He's the win con in the zone. They were all like some of the worst things.
Right.
And the things that edged them out were just like partners that had really good 2-color combos, like 2-color pairings. And honestly, if you want me to be like genuine with you, I think that if Tymna just did not have black in her color identity, immediately just becomes so garbage.
Oh yeah.
So garbage. But just that the fact that she has color on, I mean, think about Ravos, honestly. Think about Ravos. That card the card sees no play.
Yeah.
But like she's got the fact that she's got advantage stapled on her, plus she's got a good color pair. I think that just makes her extremely strong, but it just goes to show you how much the color identity matters.
Yep. So
anything you would like to add?
No, I have nothing else for this one. The only thing I want to add is if you all either agree, disagree with us, or indifferent, say that I suck this time over Blake, like, bully me this time, whatever it is, drop a comment down there. Let us know what you think. See if you like us doing lists like this, let us know. Let us know what you want to see next. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. And please, if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, comment, and as always,
go play some cEDH. Yeah.
And like even this kind of deck, and
sorry, I forgot that was there.
You got really heated on the Fowl discussion. Just start kicking shit around.
What were you saying? Hang on.
I apologize for his behavior. No.
What the fuck?
But
thanks, Dad.